and book donation drives across India. Today, we are going to see a rebuttal of Anirudh Kanisetti's latest book, which is called The Lords of Earth and Sea. It is Anirudh Kanisetti's version of Chola, the Chola history. Um, his earlier book, which is on the Chola Chalukya conflict, um, uh, had also some problematic issues which some of us tried to highlight and write about it. But in this latest book review, our guest today is Shri S. Vijay Kumar. I'll also give a quick introduction to Vijay Kumar ji. If you are following him on social media, mainstream media, he is a well-known figure you would already know. But let me introduce him properly to you. Shri Vijay Kumar is the co-founder of India Pride Project, a global initiative dedicated to combating the illicit trade of Indian artifacts and advocating for the restitution to their rightful heritage. As a passionate historian and self-taught expert on Indian temple art and sculpture, Vijay has been instrumental in preserving India's cultural treasures and documenting their significance. His bilingual blog site, Poetry in Stone, with over 300 posts, serves as a cornerstone in art, appreciation, and education, aiming to build an online searchable archive of temple art. Sri Vijay is also the acclaimed author of the book Idol Theft, a gripping nonfiction book chronicling his remarkable 16-year journey tracking trafficked Indian artifacts and unveiling the antiquity smuggling a network of Subhash Kapoor. The book is a testament of his dedication to cultural heritage and fights against global smuggling networks. Sri Vijay's work has led to high-profile restitutions, including the Vriddhachalam Ardhanari, Shri Puranthan Nataraja, and Toldev Ganesha. Collaborating with organizations like UNESCO, Interpol, and Homeland Security, his efforts have resulted in landmark recoveries, such as 108 million seizure of 2,000 odd artifacts in the United States. A regular columnist for The Hindu, The Times of India, Vijay also conducts free workshops for schools and colleges, inspiring the next generation to appreciate and safeguard India's artistic legacy. From his efforts from uncovering smuggling networks to his role as a cultural crusader, Vijay Kumar continues to be an inspiring advocate of India's past, ensuring that our heritage remains celebrated and protected for future generations. That's an impressive CV, I would say. And this is something I believe you do on the side of your job. So how is this possible, sir? If you can maybe spend a couple of minutes explaining your journey into the ideal restitution work, that will be really enlightening for some of us.
Thank you, Voice of India, and also Mr. Prasad. And I know it's late on a Sunday evening, and thankfully the IPL is cancelled, and thankfully the tensions are also reduced. And Jai Hind for India's victory. I think all of us are fortunate not to study history when we were kids, because the history that is taught in schools is not history at all. And I was very fortunate that I learned my history on the field. And I hail from a small village near Chennai. My grandmom introduced me to a wonderful work of historic fiction, not the kind of fictions in the name of history we are going to see today. And I think whether you like it or not, there's something in the blood, a passion. Like I've got my very good friend with the doctor in front, Dr. Pradeep Chakravarti on this call. He is a Pandya fanatic and I'm a Chola fanatic. And there are a lot of things that we learned on the go. Having grown up in the seashores of Chennai, visiting Mahabalipuram, trying to understand the sculptural masterpieces. Unfortunately, the books didn't do justice, and I wanted to come up with a dummy's guide to Indian art, and that journey morphed into what you see as a vigilante right now. And most of the time, I do believe that the gods want to come home. They pick and choose the vehicle, and I'm just a humble vehicle. And the face of the project, there are innumerable volunteers. We don't take any funding so far, touch wood. We don't want any awards or rewards. We don't want to be compromised in our stand. And I think that's unique. But today's journey is going to be very different, wherein we are going to see what started off as a call from a friend of mine to say that, have you seen this book on the Cholas? And Being, as I said, a Chola fanatic, you always want to read something new. We always look for some new research, and what I saw was quite shocking, and I thought I should share this. And thanks to friends in the media as well, I think a lot of misconceptions. And why I chose to do this, I'm not normally a person who would go and pick a cause like this, but the problem is when falsities and half-truths are given a platform and amplified repeatedly, people tend to realize or maybe think that it is the truth. And what you're going to see today in the next, say, an hour or so is from primary sources where we look at what exactly is being said and what exactly should have been said. That's it.
Fantastic, fantastic. No, I've read your article on Swarajya, and you named it Gods, Kings, Queens, Soldiers. So I believe you wanted to say that everything that Anirudh said about all these people is inaccurate, and can't be truly called historic, academically. So how would you like to present now? I know you have very systematically
Yeah.
given point to
So
point
yeah,
rebuttal.
I happened to see a tag on Twitter where I was referred to as the guy who has not even read the book, because I did write in that rebuttal that I just read the first chapter and it was so revolting that I couldn't proceed. So I wanted to share what kind of work I have done so people realize that this is not an off-the-cuff sneer or a critique. So I thought I'll do it from primary sources. So I'm going to share what I've read, and I thank the author of the book. I don't want to name people, for making me reread Chola history. So off we go. If you give me permission, we can see exactly, we get transported into Chola land, 1,000 years or 1,500 years, we roll back and we start, if you're okay with it.
Absolutely.
So you are seeing my screen
Yes.
now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I'm not going to say what this is right now, but I want to start with this because I feel this particular edifice, a monument, is a testament to what we are going to see in the next 1 hour. Slowly, we'll decipher this. Uh, as usual, I will dedicate my work to the unknown artists, sculptors. In this case, it's not a talk on sculpture, but to the kings and chieftains who supported them, and to the people like you and me who continue to look at it. And this is the Vajrasla Mardhanari that we got back incidentally from Australia. She was stolen. My personal emperor, I call him my emperor because I have a personal, let's say, association with the emperor. To see his name made every temple worth visit. My friends, we used to go with just a packet of biscuits and a maza, starting at sunrise, hunting temples all over India. But then to see the emperor's name carved in stone was what made us whole, actually. So there he is, a dedication to the Emperor Rajaraja, one of the true emperors of India who should be called emperor rather than the rest of the people. So I'd like to present history as it is, not interpreted, and interpretations do matter. And since I come from more as an art appreciator, as a sculptor, I'd like to show you a sculpture, a significant sculpture to this talk, but I want to show you in two perspectives. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is possibly the earliest representation of the dancing Shiva in stone. It comes from a cave temple of Mahendra Pallava. And there you see it in all textbooks. This is how he'll be shown. Of course, the hand has not come into the Kajahasta yet, so it is an early form. But why I say interpretation is different. What you're looking at now to what you're seeing now, you can actually see this is what is the divinity in it. So how do you experience this compared to what you see in a book? You have to do field visits. So some of the things that we'll cover today are the reasons why I believe that warrants this. You can actually see some of the headlines that have been thrown out. So my point is, you want to show somebody in great light. You show their achievements, but not pull down some other person. So I know not all of your listeners would be history Africanos. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of history. So we are going to talk about the medieval Cholas a lot. And if you know Tamil history, from the 2nd to the 6th century, roughly, let's say about 300 years is for long considered what was called the Calabara Interim or the Dark Age, where no history was available then. Subsequently, researchers have found out, but it's just that there was no Tamil king ruling. So for a 300-year period, we have a gray area. And then, and before, what was there? So previous to that, of course, we have the Moovenders, the Chelas, the Cholas, and the Pandyas still there. For people who want to read about it, you can go out and look at Carvela's famous inscription in Hathigumpka in Orissa, which talks about either 1,000-year confederation or 100-year confederation, depending on what, second century BC. So the Cholas were known at least from the 3rd century BC, the early Cholas. But then in this 300-year period, we don't know what happened to them. And then the Pallavas come up, and what you're seeing on screen is the main kings of the Pallavas, and the last of the Pallavas, Aparajita, is where the problem crops up. So there is a succession battle between two brothers, or not direct brothers, Aparajita and Nripatunga. We'll look at that in a little more detail. Before that, let's look at the Chola history. And I would like you to imagine the headline that we saw earlier: taxation beggared the empire that it crumbled. What you're seeing here is every major Chola empire and their years of rule, starting from the medieval Cholas, of course, when Vijayala recaptures Tanjore, installs Nisumbasudani. In Tanjore, again, one of the points that we need to look at in more detail, because the way she's described is absolutely revolting. But if you look at it, look at the number of years they have ruled. And if you total it up, it's 438 years of unbroken rule of the Cholas. And this is the empire that you're commenting on, to say that their policies or tax reform, or however you want to call it, beggared it. I don't think there is any other, even if you discount the early Cholas, the reference to the Sangam Cholas, even the medieval Cholas by themselves, I would say, are possibly the longest ruling monarchs. So we are going to go a little more detail, and we are going to look at the top 3 in that list: Vijayala, Aditya, and Parantaka only. We are not even going to see the rest of them. We're just going to concentrate on the 3 of them. And if you look at it, it's a 23-year, 36-year, 48-year rule. And you're talking about a nascent, revitalizing kingdom, and that's come up. And if you really look at core text, I'm here, I'm not even copy pasting, I'm actually giving you the actual references. So you look at the inscriptional references to the Leiden grant, unfortunately, which is still stuck in the Leiden Library Museum. I had the good fortune of touching it, the larger Leiden grant and the smaller Leiden grant, the unbuilt plates, which unfortunately have gone missing, have not been seen for 56 years. And then, of course, the Tiruvallangadu grants. We will go through all of these copper plates in more detail, because we believe that if you want to talk history, you can either talk history only from 2 sources: inscriptional evidences from stones and from copper plate grants. There are no other references to history. If you want to look at collaborative references to the Cholas, possibly you get a few references in the Mahavamsa, which is the chronicle maintained by the Buddhist monks in Sri Lanka, which corresponds to it. So every aspect of the Mahavamsa references to the Pandya kings going there, the Chola rulers going there, is all counterbalanced. So we believe there are a little bit overplay, because of course these Prasiddhis and Maikitis, of course, little bit of imagination is involved, which we will see in a few cases. But I go, because I was said that I've misquoted references in this text. So I'm going to put out, with your permission, actual references from the book. And I'm just going to take one paragraph, which cost me to do all this. I'm going to read this paragraph to you. Parantaka Chola was only a 3rd generation king. His father had managed to obtain a minor Rashtrakuta princess as a wife, a reward for callously backstabbing his allies. This left an impression on the young Parantaka, who, after his father's battlefield death in 890s, killed his half-brother, took the Chola throne, and set about marrying women left and right. Let's just stop there. This book is supposed to be a celebration of Cholas. And you're talking about, obviously, the third, Parantaka, in this light, and also his father. So how much of this is true? I'm going to dissect each word of this. Before that, I wanted to see what was his reference. So if you look at this page, there are a few numbers, 15, 14, 13, which are citations. So the book actually has a lot of bibliography. In fact, my friend actually cut a few of those pages. So we're going to see, what does this reference come from? This reference comes from Swaminathan S. Early Chola History. It's a fantastic book. And if somebody had truly referred this book, and I'm going to quote extensively from the same book. So in essence, I'm not looking for outside sources. I'm just taking the same reference, which is quoted for the statement in the book. Let's see what. So here again, I'm going to not paraphrase, I'm just quoting exactly. This is the preface of Swaminathan's Early Cholas book, and this again is available. You can actually download it for free from the National Archives. Parantaka 907 to 954 was a great Chola king. He was not a mere conqueror, but a great innovator too. In fact, it was he who laid the foundations for the greatness of the Chola Empire. During his reign, many important events had taken place, shaped the subsequent history of the Cholas. He was most devout Shaiva and immortalized himself. So this is how Swaminathan's book starts. So imagine this with what our friend who has read this, how could you take that inference? So I'm going to look at in more detail, what does he say? This is exact introduction. The period of Parantaka's reign forms an important chapter in the annals of South Indian history. He was not a mere conqueror, but an organizer of high caliber. In fact, the genius of Chola administration goes to a large extent to the organizing ability of Parantaka. How do you portray this? And if you go down, he says Parantaka one was not a bigot. During his reign, Vaishnavism and Jainism went that way. He had an ambition design of extending his territory all up. So he was the true founder of the Chola Empire expansion. So the same book, let's go and see what it talks about. Aditya I, the father of Parantaka. Remember, this is ascended the throne in 871 as per the Takolam inscription. His inscription is available up to the 27th year. No records of his are subsequently available. So if you remember, now there is a gap, 898 to 907. And this is what Swaminathan rightly points out. Nothing is known about the history of the intervening period of 9 years. And again, this is, he refers to another inscription. The Tirumalvadi inscription of Aditya refers to one Ilangon Pichi, the daughter of Vallavarayar and the queen of Aditya I. Another inscription from Thalesana mentions Adityan Kannara Deva, made an involvement to a local temple. This is very, very important. This Adityan Kannara Deva is the so-called elder brother who was supposedly killed by Parantaka. Aditya I had contracted matrimonial alliance with the Rashtrakuta King Tingtu and married the latter's daughter. So again, a minor Rashtrakuta princess was what was the book's reference. And here you see what the same reference talks about. Their son was Aditya Kannaradeva, a brother of Parantaka I, but strangely enough, Aditya Kannaradeva does not figure anywhere in the genealogy list of Chola inscriptions. Does it say anywhere he is murdered? So far, no. Let's go again and look at the battle, the callous backstabbing of the allies. We will have to visit this in more detail, a little more, but I'd like you to look at it. What happens to Aditya? So there are two brothers, Pallava brothers fighting. There is Aparajita Pallava and Nrupatunga Pallava. Both of them, one is supported by the Pandyas and one is supported by the Cholas. I just got a graph so that you can understand this better. So you have Aparajita's Pallava coalition and Nrupatunga's coalition, supported by Aditya and Prithvipati, very interesting person. Prithvipati is a East Western Ganga king who was very friendly with Vijayala and goes to battle with Vijayala's son Aditya. So in the famous Sri Purambiyam or Tirupurambiyam battle, Tirupurambiyam incidentally is just on the outskirts of Tanjore. Please visit it next time you are there. So there are these huge battle formations happening on this place. And the Pandyas and Cholas are actually coming into force and fighting. The Pandyas always had matter relationship with the Sri Lankans. So the Sri Lankan army is supporting the Pandyas. 879 CE. So Vijayala is sick or passed away. So the person who's heading the war is Aditya on behalf of Aparajita and Varuna Pandyan on behalf of the Pandya king. So what happens? Prithipati dies in battle. Aditya has a spectacular victory after that, decimates Nrupatunga's coalition. The Sri Lankan army is beaten back. Varuna Pandya is beaten back, and Aditya bids his time. He is the actual fighter of this war, and he says, "This is mine," and he takes it. There is no backstabbing here. It's just that the Pallavas were so weak by the infighting. Now, when we talk about literal backstabbing, did that happen? So here again, I'm going to go. So for people, I know you have audiences worldwide. We are still searching for this plate that was found in Anbil. This is the seal, the royal emblem of the Cholas. This Anbil plate has not been cited for the last 65 years. If it ever comes up in any collection or collector, look out for us. What you're seeing is a seated tiger on, and then two fish standing upright, which is basically the Chola tiger looking at the dead fish of the Pandyas. Under it is a bow that's kept on. So basically, he has conquered his three main. And then there's a lot more that we'll go to. But let's look at this, what the unbid plates talk about a little for. But before this, let me finish up this. So the interesting part is, apparently, there is some references to a lot of intermarriages. And everywhere, the chieftains would give their daughters to the rulers. So this was like give and take sons. And so this was not new. If you take about Pallavas, you take everywhere, these matrimonial alliances were not new. So there is no way that you could actually, this is again, I'm quoting, the policy of effecting matrimonial alliances with powerful chiefs, well-known factor in ancient Indian polity. This is a quote from Swaminathan's book. So why do you have to say that Parantaka went about marrying women right, left and center? It looks a little childish for me. So we're back to the key question before that. There was one more reference in that paragraph, battlefield death of Aditya. Aditya, so for the concept of people who don't know, there are a few temples that are sepulture temples. These are what we call Pallipadai in Tamil, which are basically, let's say, tombs. These are sepulchral temples, and we have a sepulchral temple for Aditya. Just near Tirupati Kalahasti, you have the temple, and it has an inscription which clearly says, Tondaiman Arur Tunjya Tevar. He did not die on the battlefield. He was in the front. There was no battle there. He died. So again, one more wrong or false claim that his father died in the battlefield. Let's go back and look at it. Again, quoting Swaminathan. Parantaka was chosen as heir apparent and succeeded Aditya I Chola throne. Probably a war of succession to the Chola throne might have happened. So this is like an auditor statement. No? Probably might have happened between Aditya and Kanadeva, son of Aditya I by senior queen, and Parantaka by his other son by another. Using his grandson's claim on Chola throne as a pretext among other reasons, Krishna might have intervened, and this led to a battle with unfavorable results for Krishna too. These events belong to Parantaka's reign, and they're discussed in the next chapter. So far we have seen it has been very vague, and there is not even a single reference of what happened to Aditya Kinnaradeva. Then look, it's noted that Rashtrapati came to the aid of Banara against Cholas and got defeated in the battle of nothing. So let's go again. The prefix of his name Adityan was his father's name, and therefore Raja Kesavan's record could only refer to Aditya I. The paleology also confirms the same view that while Kanadeva connects him to this maternal grandfather Krishna too. So remember, Aditya Kanadeva's grandfather was Krishna too. So his mother was no minor Rashtrakuta princess. Besides the term Kannada was foreign to any known dynasties ruling Tamil Nadu, it may presume that this particular name for Chola prince was mainly due to the Rashtrakuta association. But Aditya I was succeeded not by this prince, but by another son, Parantaka. Though Aditya Kannada was born to the chief and senior queen for reasons not known, he did not succeed the throne. As already stated, it was Parantaka who succeeded Aditya. Simple. Then he summarizes, it may have to presume that either the Chola prince Kannadeva had predeceased his father, or that his claims for succession were superseded by a more powerful Parantaka, son of Aditya, probably by another king. This may perhaps explain the attitude of Krishna II towards Parantaka, who he appears to have come into conflict as early as 912 and 948. That's it. This is the entire reference of Swaminathan's book. And I challenge anybody to tell me, after reading this, does it point to any new information that has come that says that Parantaka killed Aditya Kannadeva from this reference? In my limited intellectual pursuit, this is a misrepresentation and misquoting. Now, what is interesting and why we have to look at it is that what happened to the second statement, callously backstabbing his allies. So again, the fight happened, Tirupurambiyam battle, and for about 15 years, the Cholas are expanding the rule and the Pallavas are contracting. And then what happened to Aparajita? I again go back to another copper plate grant because there's no other reference. The Thiruvalangadu plates of Rajendra. It's a beautiful copper plate. The seal is brilliant. Now you can see that there are more additions. The boar has come, the Sri Vijayan victory arch has come. So the seal is also expanded to show more. But look at it, verse 49 of the translation. It says, having conquered in battle the Pallava king Aparajita, who possessed a brilliant army, Aparajita took possession of his beloved country and thus fulfilled the object of his desire. Where does backstabbing come? There is no other reference, so we have to believe that it was a fair fight. The Cholas were become more powerful. They were allies. And then in a fair fight, Aditya took on Aparajita and conquered. Now, why I showed this as the first slide? This was taken last year. This is the scene of the Battle of Tirupurambiyam. It's locally, it's called Ayanar Koil. What you're seeing are two shrines. And I'll show you the two shrines at the end. That's how I wanted to end it. So I just want you to keep this in memory. This is the battlefield. There are two shrines there. Let the suspense continue. So what happens to that? So I told you the reference to killed on the battlefield. So Aditya Chola dies at Tondaimarur, and this is the temple. Sadly, it's been badly renovated. It's in AP. So if you go there, you can actually see it has got two names. It's basically, it's called Adityeshwara Temple, and he had another name, Kodandareshwara. So let's go for the second part of the rebuttal. Before that, there's another interesting book that he refers, which is Padma Kaimal's work, not in this context, but she talks about temple architecture. And he's got this weird Tamil translation. I don't know who was translating it. I think Pradeep has already mentioned a lot of things. So if you really understand Tamil words, Kokilan is not Kokilam. So Kokilam, he translates and calls the lady Kuku, which is very, very different. And Sembian Mahadevi is not Sembian Mahadevi. The book is completely full with Sembian Mahadevi. So similarly, there are a lot of these cases where he takes one lady. So obviously, you want to say something new in your book, and you say Sembian Mahadevi is the greatest of all. I'm not saying she was a great queen. But before that, she talks about a lady called Nangai, who builds a temple. Now, in the same work of what he quotes, Padma Kaimal talks about a lot of females. So she says it is so prevalent that we don't distinguish in South Indian temple history donations between male donations, female donations. So if you've gone to Sengalpattu, near there is Vallam. There are three caves of the Pallavas. One cave was actually donated by two dancing ladies. So it is quite common to have a lot of these women donating. So I don't know why it's special that it warrants it. So again, why I'm quoting this is this is the quote from the same book. And what does she say about Aditya Kanaradeva? And this I'm taking from her book, and you can actually see the reference. Let me see if I can show you the point. So if you look at the family chart, you have Aditya. Look at the center. So you have Aditya Parantaka. What is interesting is, in all likelihood, Kanaradeva married into one of either Parantaka's daughters or Parantaka's sister. So her father had married Parantaka Chola's sister. So they were actually co-brothers or whatever you would call it. And this is conveniently not mentioned everywhere. And he says he was married to 10 other, all from rich landed families. So we've seen just this one line of first or introduction or the first chapter is riddled with falsities and false quotes. And I move to the second one that upped my blood pressure. This was, I don't know what to say. Mr. Crazy about holy stone temples. This is like, I don't know, the British guys coming and looking at our sculptures and commenting that they are grotesque looking sculptures. What he's actually translating is Tirukkattali Pichan. And you people who are familiar with Myanmar's verses, quite often Shiva is called Pichan. So Pitan or Pitan is very common reference. And what is interesting is there seems to be an underlying caste color being thrown into this book. I'm not going to go too much into it, but I'll have to touch on it in a few ways. So I just wanted to read what he actually said before we go in a little more detail. So a charming title that appears in the 10th century inscription is Tirukkattali Pichan, which roughly translates to Mr. Crazy about holy stone temples. I've never seen anybody translate Tirukkattali Pichan as Mr. Crazy so far. But what is more interesting is these Mr. Crazies came from a swathe of Tamil upper classes. Vellala, Brahmin, landowner, merchants, even little kings seeking to demonstrate their loyalty. Large number of crazies from the Chola home territories now flooded the east. There is no reference to this person. And if you, in fact, I did, when I was looking at portrait sculpture in South India, and this is a very beautiful book written about 100 years ago by T.G. Aravamathan. This is a very, very unique portrait sculpture. For the first time, on probably unique time, a temple donor is immortalized in sculpture, and his name is Satan Gunabhattan, alias Hara Charana Segaran of Alathur. And here I want to iterate that it doesn't say anything about his caste. There is no reference to any caste names or caste titles here. That built the sacred stone temple of Udayaparatiyar were obtained in a sacred tomb, the glorious Madhurantaka. So what we are looking at is, why are you painting a devotee who basically built a Chandikeshwara shrine, and in that wall of that shrine, he's immortalized in stone. To call him this is actually Mr. Crazy's for a temple donor. This is the heights, and what do you achieve by doing all this, and why do you do that is something that hurts. So again, we skip, we don't spend it for paucity of time. I didn't want to dwell more on it. Let's go into this exaggerated claim of 3,000 Natarajas. So what I said basically is, again, Sembian Mahadevi. It's not Sembian Mahadevi. Mahadevi looks more like a cinema dialogue. Sembian Mahadevi, imagine, is a young widow. Her husband, basically, we call it Vadakirithal. So she is there. She is a great soul. To me, she should have become a Nayanar. Her claim to fame if I use the same words of the author, should have been that she converted a lot of brick temples to stone temples in the Kaveri Delta. That's her biggest contribution. But to say that she is the founder of the Nataraja cult, she is the founder of the Nataraja form, is taking again a reference which I wanted to show what is exactly the reference. So here, because I don't want somebody saying there are no 3,000 bronze images attributed to her, there are only two inscriptions which talk about personal donations of Sembian Madevi. One is in her temple itself, Sembian Madevi temple, and one is in Vrudachalam. There are only two bronzes that could have been donated by her. Okay. So next we go to why he says this claim. So as I said, there are translations of kokilan to kokilam, kuku, and all that. We leave all that out because maybe he didn't have a proper Tamil guide. Now let's look at what he talks about Sembian Madi. He says she basically used Shaivism to expand the empire, and that was the reason why she built temples. And how many temples did she actually build? And here he references a work which I'm going to show, wherein stone Natarajas for the first time appear in co-stars, which is right, 12 to 13 temples are there. And he takes again Padma Kemal's paper is referenced here. And Padma Kemal herself is a theory she's postulating. So I'm just going to tell her to show you what she said. So if you look at the triangles, these are the temples built by Sembian Madevi. So there are 12 or 13 of them that have direct attribution to her. That's it. So the other temples bearing Nataraja images also are there. Other temples bearing minor Nataraja images are also there. So what is new? And in her own paper, she shows. So if you look at this temple, the Sadaya temple is 920 CE, predating Sembian Madevi. If you look at Naltuneshwaram Punjai, a beautiful temple, 940 predating, you already see Natarajas coming up in different forms. So what are we highlighting? So here again, this is in our own paper, Shiva Nataraja in his finalized form of Parantaka Chola. So where does this concept that Sembian Madevi is the founder of the Nataraja form comes up is because of the way how you would read a paper. Now, again, I'm going back to a reference where we talk about, in comparison, how many temples did Aditya I build? How many temples that Parantaka built? They built at least double the number of Sembian Madevi. So let's go more. I'll just skip this a little more. Let's go into the main aspect. So there's one of these claims of this taxation beggaring the economy, and there are references to the king levying a penalty, and because of that, the landowners being forced to sell. I'm going to take 3 examples for you, and let's look at what happens. So this is the actual reference of the inscription. I'm not going to read the entire reference, but the first character is it's not 5,000 gold coins. So if you look at this reference, he talks about on the top. You say find the king once fined in Nadu assembly 5,000 gold coins for an unrecorded crime. So it was not 5,000 gold coins, it was 3,000 gold coins. So, and number 2, what happened was, of that, the temple assembly sold about 500, part of it, for 500 kasa to what was called Pandi Padai. We don't know what this Pandi Padai is. But what is interesting is that it was not that the fine was recorded. We don't know what the fine was because the inscription is fragmented and this is recorded. So that the king wanted to take a land, because of that he fined it and made them to sell to the army. He is sovereign. He could have just taken it, and which is what I'm going to come to at a later stage. So as simple as that. It was, first of all, it's not 5,000 gold, it's 3,000 gold, of which only half a valley was sold to what is called a Pandi Padai. Could be a military unit or all said and done, but it was not like the random one. What the penalty was, what the fine was, we don't know because it is lost. The second one, we talk about another fine of 1,000, which was so basically what happened is they had to pay a fine, and it was a debt. They were paying the interest for 128 years. After 128 years, they sold off a land to pay off the principal. Now, I think this is a testament not to the unfair fine, but to a testament to the record keeping in the Cholas, that a debt is being serviced for 120 years. This should be a record by itself, and that somebody is actually recovering the interest owed to the temple. And I don't think it is something that we have to look. Again, these are all references that we can compare. So I'm just recording it here. People who want to go and read it in more detail can go and look at it to ensure that, okay, why is it that the Cholas are now taxed with excess tax? Now, the concept of Brahmadeyam, we are going to look at a bit more. But before that, I want to just give a screenshot. This is just a random sampling of just the irrigation. I know Pradeep had mentioned this. This was just, even today, Chennai survives, Tamil Nadu survives on these tanks and areas. And, we talk about Viranam, which is Viranaranapuram. Every tank that is now supplying water to the city was built by the Cholas. Now, what did they do? Why did they build these for? And what was the taxation of the Cholas? So basically what they do, they maintained land surveys, repeatedly reviewed and revised land surfaces, and they classified the land based on fertility and usage. So for example, you get a new waka or culvert, you get water so that you can cultivate, we call it mubbogam. So from one crop a year, you go to 3 crops a year. So obviously your productivity of the land is being improved because of land improvements done by the king, and you pay tax more. So you say, the government has increased tax. So I think this is the common practice from Goan. So here you're talking about how different land classifications were done. And they were assessed on, as I said, land quality, type of crops grown. There were surveyors it was a transparent system. And the land tax varied on the amount of produce that were given. Earlier, the village sabhas were doing it. And the sabhas collect and they administer it. Now, what the king or royalty did was they wanted to bring in more transparency and more productivity. So what do you do? We'll see what they did. So the Cholas encouraged conversion of forest and wasteland into cultivable land to incentives and grants. Large tanks can also be constructed to make arid lands viable. So what do? You need like a seed capital. So they would construct or give a tax-free grant like Brahmadev, and that would form the core of that village. And then these were all done openly. They were recorded on temple walls. So let's go and see one such endowment to a temple. And this is my favorite from my favorite emperor, Rajaraja. We call it the banana endowment by Rajaraja. If you go around the big temple on the back enclosure, you'll see a player. So for that Ganesha, he was supposed to be given 150 bananas a day. So basically, they worked the requirement based on 360 days of the Chola calendar to 54,000 bananas. So Rajaraja creates how much that is required for it, what is the annual interest rate, and he creates a corpus fund. So the capital corpus fund should not be depreciated. And not only that, he goes on to say how it should be distributed. He says it should be the capital corpus fund created by the sovereign is distributed among the merchants of these streets who will pay the interest at this rate as converted to bananas per day. And based on this, he works back the capital to the top. So this is how in detail. So a donation to a temple, a perpetual endowment. The endowment grant doesn't get, the interest from the grant comes back to the temple and the business runs, and it's a capital that is being infused. So this is in essence what the emperors were doing. And I don't know for what reason there is a lot of propping up of the business community. So the Nadu assemblies, the 500. So there is, again, I'm reading, which had settled over 100 years with little royal intervention. So I'm just going to give you an example of these assemblies. So I'm going to give you across Southeast Asia. So if this is from Sumatra, the Rebuttal inscription from 1088. So if you reel it, it starts with hail prosperity in the reigning year of Chakravarti. So these business communities had the blessings of the emperor, worked under his auspices. And this is not one. So let's look at another in southern Thailand again. That it talks about the sovereign. Not only that, let's go to Karnataka. We talked about how we collect taxes and we fill the royal treasury with gold. So it's not that these trading guilds were exclusive or no, it was. So they were given permission to operate by the emperor. He used to fund them and they used to fill up his coffers. So what is so great that he talks about that they were autonomous before and the Cholas took them off and converted it. It was never the case. And this keeps going on and on and on. But again, I'm going back to Swaminathan's book, where he talks about this. The king was the head of the state, but not an autocrat. Village assemblies enjoyed a greater degree of autonomy and functioned smoothly. Assemblies like Sabha, Ur, and Nagaram coordinated for the welfare of the society. Scholarship, efficiency, honesty, insisted upon by the members of the village committee. This on only on the solid foundations laid down by Parantaka I is illustrious Natarajas found a solid administrative system. So what are we talking about in terms of the merchant guilds being autonomous before and then later coming under it? So do we have another 20 minutes, Prasad?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, I'll quickly finish the main aspects. So there's another claim that the Cholas never had a navy. There's a lot of ridicule going on that we are naming our navy against Chola rulers and all that. The navy that we see today is not the navy that it was before. So it's not like the movies that you see two ships colliding each other. The navy was basically used to transport ground forces. And that's where the issue comes, saying that the Cholas have a standing navy. Now, the question is, what is a standing navy? The standing army itself was not that basically. Before that, it was basically constant. So, every house would send two people to fight. The Cholas actually came up with a standing army. And now the question is, did the merchant guilds support this with their ships? And this is what is the claim from the book, saying that the Cholas were given merchant corporations like that over the 500 lasted for a better part of 1,000 years longer than the East India Company, all that. And it is very easy for us to see where he quotes a paper from Sri Lanka. He says that boats were hired from merchants at Marakadu. This is the third paragraph. When Parantaka demanded the Sri Lankan hand over the Pandya regalia, which is again an interesting story. If you have time, I will talk about it at the end. And so in the campaigning season, the Chola army was mastered. Boats were hired from merchants at Marakadu, present-day Vedaranyam, and it's giving a reference of 75. So I went and checked what the 75 is. So let's look at what the 75 is. The 75 is a paper by Indrapala. So in this Indrapala reference, there is no reference to boats being hired. He only says Tamil merchant guilds expanded their operation or the protection of the new Chola administration in Sri Lanka, benefiting the stability and trade. Now, from where that we say that from this reference that we jump, saying that the boats were hired from merchants of Marakadu. He only says that the merchants traveled from Marakadu. That reference is also not there. Tamil merchant guilds, notably the IOL 500, appear in reference after the establishment of the Chola rule. What does it mean? The Cholas convert, the merchants went in on behalf of the emperor. So these kind of misrepresentations are errors. So the Cholas have a very simple. I go back to the Naval plates. I told you there's a little bit of one-upmanship always, so we take it with a pinch of salt. Verse 80 says, so it basically says Rama required an army of monkeys to build a bridge over the waters to reach Ravana. Whereas when Arunmuri course, the original name of King Rajaraja, crossed the ocean by ships. When it's technically what it says, when the first ship was reached Sri Lanka, the last ship was still in port in Tamil Nadu. So he says the general of Almari crossed the ocean by ships and burnt a lot of Lanka. Hence, Rama surely surpassed by by this Chola general. Again, we just have to look at it. So there is no other reference that we talk about. There's a lot of other misrepresentations in terms of sure, gaining prominence because the Cholas wanted to go closer with the Vellalas and all that, which is crap. We know that the Cholas were traditionally crowned in Chidambaram. In the Maipadi, they would sit there, the consecration would happen in July. We can go up to the Nayanar verses where they are talking about Chola kings and their faith to that. So Shiva worship was not something new, and there was no need for them to take about. And what is interesting is this reference. Progress was slow, and there was plenty of time for lowly to hear stories of God's old and new. A bloodthirsty first maintain mountain on a stack. We actually were not even the Draupadi on a stack. Wild warrior of the hills, the scared revealing this was the knee. Who crushed demons between her thighs. I found this representation revolting. You would never use crushed demons between her thighs. What does it signify? I don't know from where he got this words. Because if you really look at the Thiruvalangad plates, uh, this is verse 46 where when Vijayala consecrates himself, he says, having next consecrated image of this lotus feet are worshipped by gods and demons. Let's look at her. This is her. If you see her there, of course, she's all decked up. You might not, maybe the author did not have a chance to see it. But you can actually see where is it that you're talking. She's stomping them. Let's look at bronzes in Natarajas Museum. Let's look at economies. Where do you even talk? So on the left, you have a later Chola Ekaveri, and then you have Nisaba Sodhini on the right. How can you can actually say that she is crushing them between her thighs? This is actually revolting. So I don't know
Uh,
what. So now you know
Vijay,
why yeah.
so sorry to interrupt. I think there's your sound is not very clear. Could be a bandwidth
Okay.
issue. If you can switch off your video,
Okay.
we'll see if that improves.
Okay, sure. Let me switch. Is it better now?
Not yet.
Hold on. Stop video. Okay, testing, check. Can you see
Yep.
now?
Yep. Yes.
Can you hear? Okay. Let me look at the last one. It's going to be close. So this is where the taxation aspect comes up, where again, taking from his own reference, Noburo Karishma's work. This is the book again available. Please go and look at it. So this is where he is talking about a new reference. The change which I've examined in this book is the change of society from ancient to medieval. During this transitional period, there emerged many new things. First, private landholding began to spread in the Chola state through land grants by the state to Brahmanas and important officials, replacing to a certain extent traditional common landholding. Privileged people living in the Kaveri Delta started to purchase land, which affected the fate of the common people who have been living in the traditional agrarian society. Many farmers were deprived of the land and brought to ruin. The state also had to change its policy towards. So this, I believe, is what the author has taken in his reference. So let me see whether the same study does it warrant it. Let's look at a little more in detail. Rajaraja introduced in Chola Mandalam a new territorial division called Valanadu in between Nadu and Mandalam, into which he tried to concentrate power for local administration. Some Valanadus were forced by cutting even boundaries of a Nadu. Kulothunga ruled towards transforming. So now, if you look at it, what is happening is that the local assemblies were isolated and they were too powerful. They were stripped of their power, and a central administration was, so basically the ruler is coming up with a central administration. Now this is where it gets interesting. Entire crux of this essay or whatever is a reference, he himself says we have restricting, I shall restrict my examination mostly to Tamil inscription, the 8th to 14th centuries. And he says that I don't have enough samples. Statistical analysis of inscription. In this chapter, however, the arguments will be made from the viewpoint of landholding policy of Chola state through the examination of two important 12th century inscriptions. So this entire assumption that you read before comes from just two inscriptions of this entire land being taken off from the, so again, in the same work, there is a very small reference which I wanted to show you here. So land transactions during the Chola period, I believe this is a work of Dr. Subrailu. So let's look at the period. Again, we're talking about 875 to 985, 886 to 1070, 1071 to 1178. And when the BRAS is Brahmin assemblies, BR individuals is Brahmin individuals, non-Brahmin assemblies, non-Brahmin individuals, whatever. So if you actually look at it, from the time Parantaka comes in, from that time, or even Vijayala comes in, the results are quite obvious. I think we should be celebrating the Cholas for a more equitable distribution and not to, this book, every page talks about Brahmin priests, Brahmadeyams, and look at the results. And this is a topographical survey done by Dr. Subrailu over 150, if I remember right, inscriptions. Now, what are we harping on in this entire paper? Where does this data come from? Where has been taken, land has been taken from the commoners and distributed? The hard evidence is right there in the same paper. So, yeah, that's where I stopped reading, because I had gone and seen this site, the Pallipadai of Tirupurambiyam. Beautiful place. This was the battlefield where Prithipati, so what you're reading there, it says Prithipati Ayanar, Sinnavar Sannidhi. So he is deified as a god. An ally who fought on behalf of him has been deified in stone, and for 1,000 years, people have continued to worship him. Not only that, you also have both Vijayala and Prithipati to be worshipped as living gods to this day. So there, I think, is the right time for us to stop and review, saying that the Chola are not even rulers. They are immortalized as gods by the common folk, by the people. Let's not ridicule them for the purpose of selling books. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Vijay. That's a very incisive critique. And what I find fascinating is that you've actually gone into the sources that are quoted in the book, or I should say misquoted, because probably the proper reading of those sources was not done by the author. Yeah, the one thing that also riles me up is the Pichaya. I mean, he's a Telugu, the author is a Telugu, so he should know that till a generation earlier. Pichaya is a very common name in Telugu, and it refers to Shiva. So I don't know where his ignorance comes from. And also, I think you quoted the merchant guilds doing expeditions on their own, and you quoted Ayavali there, 500. And Ayavali 500 is the same merchant guild, if I'm not wrong. That's in the inscription of Badami, which is like few hundred years predating the Cholas. And if they were capable of crossing seas and doing expeditions on their own, they would have done that before the Cholas. So there's so many inconsistencies, as you pointed out, and thanks for doing this incisive critique, because what happens is this is targeted to English-speaking, probably millennial or Gen Z audience who probably can't speak their mother tongues in most probability. Now, your review equips them with a counter evidence as to what the real truth is. So thanks for this.
I wouldn't say it's even counter. It is the evidence.
It is the evidence. You're right.
Because
You're
I'm not
right.
finding anything new. I'm just taking what is he supposed to have referred. So that is what is quite surprising. See, if I have to dig up something new, at least I've done some work.
Absolutely, absolutely. I tried reading his earlier book, The Lords of Deccan. I have a little bit of
I couldn't. It looks like a lot of the rings for me.
exactly, exactly. I mean, I couldn't go past the first chapter. So I'll now turn it over to the audience. If they have any questions, please raise your hand and ask your question while we have Vijay with us. So are we planning to publish this in a peer-reviewed journal?
I've got better things to do, honestly, because I think this is a job of the editor and the publisher. So maybe if they do another edition, they should at least correct it. I don't think it will gain any traction because I think for me, academic publications are never read. In fact, I never wanted to write a book in it because I felt that, but unfortunately, the circumstances, a few more books I have also written. But I feel that the public should know. And sadly, today, there are big names propping up these, and people are flocking and they're getting platforms at literals and all that. I believe that people, when before you invite any person, you should evaluate the work, not the name. I think the book or whatever is the work, there are many ghostwriters today. AI can complete an entire book for you in a matter of days. I think what is important is people should know the truth. If you want to write fiction, write fiction. Why do you dabble, say it is true history? And especially, why do you belittle living people? In fact, I had a click with a great author of Tamil called Balak. In his book, The Odaya, he'd actually shown Semir Mahadevi as a brooding black magic wielding witch. So,
Wow.
I think history should. I think it's a note to publishers. It's a note to editors to do their jobs properly.
Got it. Got it. Rajiv ji, you have a question?
Yeah, just it's not really a question, but I just want to comment. I mean, great work done by Vijay in terms of critiquing, but I just want to offer an alternative viewpoint. It's not like I'm not saying it should be binding in any way or not insisting, but this great work of critiquing should also be out there in some kind of a published form. I'm just going to speak on the technology aspect because of the introduction of AI tools and the whole world going through, to the AI way. You see, there are two ways to lose a battle. One is to fight it out, and if you still lose, yeah, you tried but you lost. The other way to lose a battle is never to even show up. So in the data world today, if you do not have this counter there in a published form of some kind, the other guy, he can just walk away. So just imagine some student of history doing research, and these days everything is all like Google Scholar and online references. So I just want to offer an alternative view that, yeah, this important critique like this, what I mean, I'm sure Vijay has put in tremendous amount of effort into this. Just a little bit more work, just get it published. If not anything, just put it on academia.edu. And we also have our own in-house journals and e-journals. So please do reconsider that and put this wonderful work of critiquing something like this in some online space. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajivji. Currently, I'm working on a 45,000 page doctoral dissertation on the antiquities trade. I'm working on 3 books. One, I'm not trying to promote what I'm doing. I just want to let you know that I'm working on a book that is comparing Homer's Iliad and Odyssey war poems with Sangam literature, poems of war, and the Kalingatha poems of war. And then there's another book, a prequel to Idle Thief and a sequel to Idle Thief, that is currently should hit. I also have a day job. So for me, first of all, I would say that battle is between equals. So for me, I don't think this work, I need to even justify it by giving it a critique. There are other people, fortunately, who are writing good history books. Krishnan Sir, T.S. Krishnan is writing a wonderful book on the Cholas. And I think there is no new evidence that has come up. I would still, my Bible for the Cholas is Nilakanta Sastri. My Bible for temple art, we have SRB's, S.R. Balasubramanian Sir's works, Gopinath Rao's works. I think the new age fiction writers should stay with fiction. And I do see a point. I will try to do it. In fact, Swarajya has done an excellent job in putting all this into a platform already and published it. But I'm not a great fan of academic publishing for two cases. One is it's too much of work, too much of formatting, and too much of intellectual whatever on Word. But I take it a point and I will try to do it. Definitely, you will see a better version of this. But the second thing is I need to read the whole bloody book. And to me, that is tougher. Sorry for if I use any wrong words. Thank you.
Yeah, Lakshmi, can I just make a follow-up comment if you don't mind?
Yes, yes, sure.
Yeah. So there is another aspect to this, and that is in day-to-day politics. I mean, this is not, this is not actually a follow-up, but I'm saying. So you mentioned Nilkant Shastri. The Dravidianist, third grade professors in Tamil Nadu universities, they have taken Nilkant Shastri's work, put some like garbage interpretation, and that's what they're teaching to students in wherever they can find spaces. So this is also a political war.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
I
want
think we
to
leave
mention
politics
that.
out of this. I understand that. I leave politics out of it. But I think books that stand the test of time will stand. Today, Tamil literature is propped up just because of where Samaraya. And again, I'm not sure if Pradeep was still there. He's done an excellent work in bringing out his works. So I think the contributions of people should not be looked at with any lens, let alone a tainted jaundiced eye. Not so we cannot judge caste systems of today with caste systems that were there, not the judiciary of those days. I think history should be shown as history, as what it is. Let the audience interpret it. And I strongly believe that fact should be shown as fact, as you've seen today. And I think let's not get these politics will always be there. And the point is not, I see your point. I think what we should do, what the government should do, what the authorities, custodians should do, is to ensure that the right quality of work is backed up, the right quality of people get platforms. Today we see jokers coming up talking about stuff that they have no clue on, getting platforms in Interact and RS. I think before they have these big platforms, people who are inviting them should at least review the work and see if it is fitting. Some of the comments that are made, especially by these authors, are their personal left leanings, right leanings should not be clouded. If the book is good, hands off, I would appreciate it. If the book is bad, I call it spade a spade. Now, we Tamils, we have this, my father tells, I have Vanangamudi. This head doesn't bow. So we call a spade a spade. We continue to call it. Thank you.
Thank you. But I think you'll certainly accept more such book review invitations and speak more about your reviews, because we would really want this to be viral and more people to have access to. If we have any further questions, then please raise your hand and ask.
I think everybody is tired.
Yeah. So it's particularly fascinating for me because I am interested in inscriptions, but my field area of interest is more in Andhra, Kakatiya, Satvahana era inscriptions, because I can read Telugu.
Then,
yeah, sorry.
okay. No. Then you will talk about the Hotur inscription.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, let's go on. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Go on. I think there are a few more on the chats. I'm not able to see the chats. Are there any questions on the chat? Nothing, right?
I think it's one question is about how do we call out amateur historians like Anirudh Kanisetti or Devdutt Patnaik, but I think that's exactly what you just did. I think it's people who develop interest in their own culture and start reading it through the inscriptions and the primary sources. I think they'll have to come out and write articles like these and rebuttals like these, and they should. I hope they get a much bigger platform than they're getting right now. So I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I think people should value, don't look at the brand, don't look at the people propping up the brand. Look at the quality of the output, and like you guys, give more platforms to new authors, but make sure that they don't brandish half truths and untruths as truth.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, Thanks a lot. Thanks, Vijay, for joining us. I mean, when I read the article, I was really fascinated by all the references that you painstakingly gone through and uh, showed it to us. And
I hope I did justice. I'm the guy who didn't read the book.
no, the book is not worth reading. I can tell you because my experience with the Lord of Deccans was that I couldn't get past the first chapter. I was so revolted that I immediately wrote an article rebutting it. So I can understand. But I think that shows the kind of misinterpretation or the narrative twist that some historians, pop historians, if I may say, are doing it willingly or not knowingly. But good that we have people who are scholarly and have done their research and are out there to call it out. So thanks a lot. I know it's late for you. Thanks for joining us. And this has been a very
Thank you.
educative session for all of us. Thanks.
Hope to get you on talking about sculpture, my favorite. This is just, give me some next time we talk about Indic influence in Vietnam, Cambodia, or if you want, let's do one session if your audiences want on temple art and iconography or Chola bronzes or Chola paintings.
That would be fantastic. That would be really wonderful. We'll certainly organize one and reach out to you for that.
Yeah, that will definitely take less of my time than this. It would less painful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And
Thanks
have a
a
good
lot.
night. Take care.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Thanks.